The Athletic claims that the representatives of Lille forward Jonathan David, who is currently 24 years old, have been in contact with the Blues regarding a potential transfer. After President Olivier Letang made it public that the forward was free to leave, David, who has just 1 year left on his contract, has been made available to clubs across the continent. It is said that no contact has been made with the French team yet. Chelsea are as yet hoping to get another striker this late spring. As they try to add more capability to Enzo Maresca's side, they had been in converses with Aston Manor over a move for Jhon Durán, yet no proposition has been made for the player. Since then, other options have been looked at, like Samu Omarodian from Atletico Madrid. If David doesn't get a move this summer, he can negotiate a free transfer starting in January. The Canadian scored multiple times in Ligue 1 last season and has an amazing record in France since his move from Belgian outfit Gent in 2020. In 2022-23 he oversaw 24 association objectives with 15 and 13 in the past 2 years too. David has for some time been connected with a transition to the chief association. Previously and ideas somewhere else have been that he has even been presented out to Stockpile, Liverpool, and Manchester joined together. He is right now away with his country at the Copa America. On Friday night he tumbled to a 2-0 loss to Argentina in a match that Chelsea midfielder Enzo Fernandez was not engaged with. He stayed on the seat, having just without further ado prior made his revisitation of the pitch after a drawn-out injury and ensuing a medical procedure. Letang is referring to David's 1-year contract, which means Lille are likely to welcome offers for a reasonable transfer because the likelihood of a renewal is even lower than it was for Conor Gallagher at Chelsea. The Athletic claims that Chelsea are considering this possibility after holding talks with the player's representatives. We have not yet made an authority approach, however he is supposed to be high on our rundown of expected focuses at striker. David is at the Copa America with Canada right now. After a slow start to the season, he did score 26 goals across all competitions, 14 of which came in the league over the course of the last 4 months, helping Lille finish in the top 4 of Ligue 1. Estevão Willian is the latest player to agree to join Chelsea. The 17-year-old has become the second summer transfer confirmed since Enzo Maresca's arrival earlier this year. As one of the most exciting young players in the world, Estevão will also join a host of other teenage talents at the club. André Santos, David Washington, Angelo Gabriel, and Kendry Paez were all signed as teenagers, for significant outlays given their age. In some circles, Estevão is already deemed to be a cut above. Having broken into the Palmeiras senior side, he is impacting games for the first team in Brazil, and is expected to become part of the Chelsea squad as soon as possible. Unlike some of his peers, only Washington of the previous name stayed at the club after his transfer, developing in the academy and making minor substitute appearances. Santos was sent back on loan after his deal in January 2023 and then spent the first half of last season at Nottingham Forest before moving to RC Strasbourg mid-term with Angelo there from the start. Paez, like Estevão, will not join Chelsea until he turns 18. He will spend the 2024-25 campaign at Palmeiras, before moving to England, where the plan is for him to settle in as part of the furniture. Unlike those that have been sent elsewhere to get first-team minutes, Paez and Estevão are different cases. They are expected, although it is still very early and 12 months away, to go into the senior setup immediately. It will leave their progress to be monitored and analysed heavily in the coming season. But when could they actually be in action for Chelsea? Well, domestically, it will be August 2025, that is when the Premier League season of 2025-26 will begin, so a debut in that competition is still a way off. However, due to the FIFA Club World Cup next summer, there is a chance that they could be seen earlier. The newly revamped tournament will be held between June 15th and July 13th next year. With 32 teams taking their place in the competition, Chelsea, via winning the Champions League in 2021, is being dealt with seriously by the club. In fact, part of Chelsea's willingness to part ways with Mauricio Pochettino was because they did not want to risk entering his final 12 months contracted and being in a position whereby he is sacked in the same summer as the Club World Cup. It has been described as a double season, due to the tournament linking 2024-25 and 2025-26. Speaking exclusively to Court Offside for his latest daily briefing column, Romano explained that Broja has interest from a number of clubs, including Everton and Wolves in the Premier League, as well as Bundesliga side Stuttgart. Broja had also been linked with AC Milan, but Romano has played down those transfer rumours for the time being, linking the Albania international with the 3 clubs mentioned above instead. Chelsea couldn't find room for Broja in their first team squad last season, so it surely makes sense for them to offload him now, as he struggled on loan at Fulham. Despite once looking like an exciting young talent coming through at Stamford Bridge, it now perhaps seems unlikely Broja will ever quite reach the level required to be a key player for the Blues' first team. Discussing Broja's future, Romano said, "Finally on Chelsea, there's no concrete update yet on Armando Broja, but the expectation is still for the striker to leave Chelsea on a permanent transfer this summer. I have no news on AC Milan so far. It's always reported, but I'm not aware of anything advanced, only following the player. Stuttgart like him, Everton and Wolves too. Everton for sure would like to sign him, but it's not advanced yet. One imagines Broja has it in him to be a useful player for clubs like Everton and Wolves, while it would also be interesting to see how he might get on in the Bundesliga with Stuttgart. The 22-year-old surely still has it in him to turn his career around after a difficult spell, during which he's also had some injury troubles that have slowed down his progress after he caught the eye on loan at Southampton a few years ago. Broja is free to leave Chelsea after struggling to establish himself in the senior side, with the 22-year-old having spent the second half of last season on loan at Fulham. The Albania international, who is representing his nation at Euro 2024 this summer, failed to make an impact at Craven Cottage and is now expected to take on a new challenge on a permanent basis in a bid to reignite his fortunes. Sky Germany are reporting that Stuttgart are considering Broja as an option amid mounting interest in leading scorer Serhou Guirassy. The latter scored 28 goals in 28 league games to fire Stuttgart to a shock runners-up finish in the Bundesliga and has a release clause of €17.5 million, £14.07 Borussia Dortmund are pushing for a deal and Broja has been named as a potential replacement. However, despite Stuttgart being able to offer Champions League football next season, a move within the Premier League is deemed the most realistic option for Broja due to Chelsea's demands. Chelsea have agreed a deal worth £19 million with Aston Villa to sign teenage prospect Omari Kellyman, with Ian Martson on the brink of completing his move to the Midlands. Kellyman, an 18-year-old attacking player, was seen as a big prospect inside Villa Park, and Chelsea first inquired about him in January before making a firm move this month. Chelsea have not yet abandoned their interest in Villa striker Jhon Durán, but are hesitant to proceed at speed after making checks on his background and personal terms. The West London club are checking on other striker targets, who include Hoffenheim's Maximilian Bayer and Lille's Jonathan David. In the meantime, Chelsea have clinched the deal for Kellyman, who will sign a 6-year contract with the option of a further 12 months and was initially valued at £20 million by Villa. The expectation is that Kellyman will join Chelsea's first team squad for pre-season, but could be loaned out next season to get more senior experience and prepare him for the following campaign. Villa have agreed to sign Martson in a separate deal worth £37.5 million, with the player expected to seal the move imminently, but must also sell players to comply with profit and sustainability rules. In what has been described as an illiquid market, clubs are having to create liquidity by finding agreements for players to move in opposite directions in separate transfers. Kellyman joined Villa 2 years ago from Derby County and signed a long-term contract with the club only last October before making his Premier League debut in the defeat to Manchester City in April.